Good evening and welcome. I'd like to call to order our Lucan Biddulph Council meeting for Tuesday, April the 7th. I would like to acknowledge that I am an ally of Indigenous peoples. The Township of Lucan Biddulph is located on the treaty and traditional territory and ancestral lands of many Indigenous peoples and is covered by several Upper Canada treaties. We honor and respect the history, languages, and cultures of the diverse Indigenous peoples who call Lucan Biddulph home. We endeavor to unlearn colonial mindsets and practices and to grow in knowledge. As we build meaningful relationships, we recognize contributions of Indigenous peoples and respect their leadership and partnership in shaping and strengthening our community. We acknowledge historic and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples endure in Canada, and we affirm our commitment to honoring Indigenous voices, nations, and cultures, and to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay, so it's April and it's officially spring. I know we all thought that this morning when we woke up. We thought spring is here, or is it our third winter? But the last time we met, it was still the dark days of winter. Spring is an especially busy time. And as you will note in the activity reports in tonight's agendas, our departments are working on projects and initiatives that will continue to take shape as the season goes on. Residents will see the telltale signs of spring as street sweepers will be here this month. Our recreation staff are gearing up for a busy spring and even busier summer. Economic development is supporting many community projects that tend to bring everyone out of hibernation. And I encourage everyone to take notice of what each department is doing because there is much excitement around the municipality. I'd also like to take a moment to remind everyone that April is Be a Donor Month. Organ and tissue donations save lives. Do you know that one organ donor has the ability to save 8 lives? It is incredibly easy to become a donor. You can register to be a donor at beadonor.ca. More importantly, have the conversation with your family, letting them know that it is your intention to be a donor. These conversations can be difficult to have, but they are necessary. In our family, we recognize that we cannot take our organs and tissues with us, so we are registered to be donors in hopes that someone will benefit from transplantation. If you have not done so, please recognize Be a Donor Month and register to be a donor. So we do not have any additions to the agendas. We have no announcements, no closed sessions, no public meetings, but we have 2 delegations tonight. And at this time, I'm pleased to welcome Joy Birch, the president of Highview Residents, Lucan's newest economic driver and business. And it's great to have you here, Joy. I will turn it over to you and welcome to Lucan Biddulph.
Thank you very much. We are so happy to be here tonight to speak with you. And along with me is our CEO and founder, Ross Chapin, our other founder, his wife, Kathy Chapin, and our Director of Operations and Clinical Lead, Caitlin LG. We are here to talk a little bit tonight about what is happening at 139 Main Street. We at Highview have been in business for about 23 years, and we have 2 homes that are in London and 2 homes that are in Kitchener. And up to this point, our homes have been specially designed and created to serve people who have dementia. And now we are going to evolve into something that is similar but different for us. We have always believed that how people live and how they are supported matters deeply. So why Lucan Biddulph? Well, we were already working on the business case for private, supported independent living housing for adults with developmental disabilities and neurodiversity. And then I received a call from someone I didn't even know who said, I have a building and I wonder if you'd like to look at it. And just for future reference, we always want to look at a building or land. We're always happy to look at land. And so we came to see the building, and admittedly fell in love with it. We really began to see something special in the building and an opportunity for the future that was really going to be very different. And so what we are doing now is thoughtfully renovating the space. We actually got the keys, as they say, the first week of March and moved in right away to start the renovations. And let me tell you just a little bit about what we are planning in that space. What we are doing is creating a home, and a home for 3 different types of residents. This will be the first of its kind in Canada, as far as we know, that will be a private, multi-generational home for people who have dementia, for seniors' retirement, and for adults with a developmental disability or neurodiversity. They will all live together in one community in the building and have the opportunity to have a home. So when we look at what we are creating in the next slide, what we know makes this different is this multi-generational piece. So support will be woven into the day-to-day for every person that is living there. And the support is subtle. It's not built around, you will have breakfast at 7:29 a.m. and you will have your shower at 7:47 a.m. It really is woven into what each of those people need that are living in the home. And our founder, Ross, will often say that we will come alongside. So we will do with, not do for. And I think that's a really important differentiator for the approach to how people will be supported within the home. So it is also a small home concept. All of our homes are about 50 people. And we do think that we are going to begin to see that everyone will just look out for each other. And we are really looking forward to being a new neighbor in Lucan Biddulph. So what's happening right now, as you can see from the pictures on the slides, we are in full mode of construction and renovation. Currently, the building is 50 suites. 53 suites. We are turning that into, pause. Currently, the building is 55 suites, and we are taking out 4 suites for the purpose of creating a secure home for people who have dementia on the 2nd floor. And then 1st and 3rd will be for seniors' retirement or adults with a developmental disability. And so the 2nd floor is where all the major renovation is happening. And that will be to make it as cottage-like as our homes in London and Kitchener are. And again, it will be our secure space for people who have dementia. Wherever possible, we have been using very local partners in not only the construction, but in sourcing materials, in almost everything that's going into the home to the greatest extent possible. We have always been a company that buys and supports local, and we have continued to do so. I wonder if I could talk for a moment just about why we think this matters so much and why we've decided to go this route with the building. Families in our region are really navigating difficult times, and wait lists are long for someone who has dementia, for caregivers who are supporting that person with dementia. And when we think about the lists for adults with a developmental disability, the wait lists, if you can believe it, are even longer for publicly funded homes. And so we really believe this is an opportunity to help more families and to also provide an opportunity for everyone who comes to live at Highview Lucan to be independent in a way that is most appropriate for them. And we really look forward to the people that we're going to have in the home that we will care for. Kathy has already been saying that since the moment we found out we got the building, that we are already imagining all the people who will live here and all the families who felt there was no support possible to be supported. And this is not just today or tomorrow or even next year. This will go beyond even my opportunity to be involved in this building. And it's transformational, and it's important. It's so important. So as you can tell, we're a little bit excited. We're a little bit excited about this. So Highview will create a place where people are supported to live with the independence that is right for them, with community connection here in Lucan Biddulph, with community connection within the building and purposeful opportunities to be involved in their day-to-day. And now that you know what we're doing in the building that will open in mid-July, then I'm going to invite you just to dream with me for a little bit while I tell you about what happens next. When we look forward about 5 years, we are planning to renovate the site. As you may know, the actual site that's connected to 139 is about 1.4 acres. And our intention is to remove the houses that are currently on the site on either side of the main building. And then we are going to put 7 or 8 tiny homes that are semis on that site. And it will be a village concept within the town of Lucan Biddulph. And so the opportunity with the village, as we're gently calling it right now, is that couples can come together and live in one of the tiny homes and just receive the right amount of support. It may also just be an opportunity for someone who wants a little more independence or a little more privacy than they would have within the main home. And this is early stage drawings that we have up here just conceptually to show you what that might look like. But we're very excited about the opportunity of what the future looks like, as well as what mid-July looks like for the building. Our approach here is really to be a good neighbor. We're really looking forward to being a part of your community and build something that really feels different, that feels welcoming, and definitely that feels like home. You know, when we tour families through our homes in London and Kitchener, it's one of the things that we hear very often. They walk into the home and they pause for a minute. Usually they let out a little bit of a sigh, and then they say, "This feels like a home and not like a facility." And really, that's what it is. That's what it really is. And so, as you may have seen from our street sign that we put up right away as soon as we got the keys, we are welcoming our neighbors tomorrow night. It's just a chance to come in and have some delicious sweets from desserts first and on table, a cup of coffee from Timmy's, and a chance to hear a little bit more about what we're doing. We are also going to take folks through a really quick tour of the second floor. It is under construction, but we'll make sure it's safe for you. No hard hats required. And we'll have a chance to show you some future pictures of what the spaces will look like in the home once we're done the renovation. So we are looking forward to meeting some of our neighbors tomorrow night and talking also a little bit about the plans for hiring and the economic impact on Lucan Biddulph, so that everybody has a good sense of what that might look like as well. And just to have a chance to have a sweet, I absolutely love my sweets, and a cup of coffee. So I really thank you so much for the time to speak with you tonight. And if you're able to come tomorrow night, then you're also welcome to join us then.
That's great. Thank you so much, Joy, for the presentation. It's great to get a better sense of who you are and who Highview is. And we're looking forward to you certainly being part of the community. Didn't know if council had any questions or comments. Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, thank you, Joy. You're obviously passionate about this. I just want to have a comment and a question if I can. So first of all, very happy to see the diversity of housing being provided in our inclusive community. I think that's wonderful. You mentioned something about like being non-regimented, and it's just a question for me, but just like you have individual plans for residents, and I'm just wondering if that's something new. Is that a new concept with this sort of thing?
The regimented schedule, what we have found works really well for the person who has dementia is to follow the natural rhythms of their day. And so a good example of not regimented would be, for instance, if you always wake at 5 in the morning, and I don't typically wake until 9, We're going to follow your routine and get you breakfast and give you a cup of coffee and your paper and whatever your regular routine is. We're not going to say you have to stay in bed till 7:30 because it's not time to get up yet. And we'll go with my 9 a.m. routine and move slowly, but know for sure that I have to have my lips on before I do anything in my day. So that's the idea. When we look at the person who has a developmental disability or neurodiversity, there's a part of routines that are comforting and that are important. And so it's going to be a very individualized way of looking at what is the right plan for each person, for the person who needs a lot of that routine, and for a person where we're going to go with you up at 5 and cup of coffee and apply the right thing on a person by person basis for every person who moves into the home.
Right. No, thank you, sir. It definitely deinstitutionalizes it. That's for sure. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
Councillor Westman, and then Deputy Mayor May.
Hi there. It's great to hear from you, Joy. I think this is wonderful. I'm very familiar with dementia care from personal experience. So I've done a lot of reading about how they do things in Europe. And this is how they do things in Europe. There's the non-regimented systems where the residents can be more comfortable, because in institutional settings, you're right. For some that works, but for people with dementia, it can be very stressful. And everybody knows that anything about neurology is that cortisol is like kerosene on a campfire for a dementia mind. It causes all kinds of issues with concentration and all that. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for the residents that are going to stay there and be cared for in that environment. I'm really excited about the community living component as well. We've had very good relationships with our local community living um, facilities, and I think that's wonderful too, because there's a great opportunity for involvement in the community as well.
Mhm.
So local groups can be supportive, and you know, there can be some outreach there as well. So I'm very excited. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the site itself, just looking ahead 5 years. I really like that. I don't think it's near as intrusive as the previous owners. Maybe that was 2 owners ago, had a different vision than this, and this is a much softer approach. So I do like that. On your expansion of the tiny homes. And I just, maybe for the public to know, the houses you're going to be tearing down, they should know that they're unlivable, because there. I think people would be concerned you're tearing down houses, but they need to know that they're uninhabitable. The fire department, I was in one of them, and they need to be tore down. So I'm really glad you're doing that. And hopefully you're doing it good soon, because it'll clean up coming into town too, because unfortunately the previous owners just simply didn't take care of them, and it looks disgraceful. So thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Thank you, Joy, for your delegation and coming to meet us. It's a pleasure to meet you. Like everyone else here, I think I was very happy and excited about seeing this. And I love the 5-year vision and the ambition with the plan. I had one question, and with what happened with the previous residences, and they were heavily impacted and kind of forced to leave, and it was kind of a really sad story for the community. And I'm just wondering, you mentioned wait lists, and would there be any opportunity for those people that were impacted to get back into the community they called home before, or what does that process look like?
Yeah, I can absolutely understand that question. And I am sorry for all of those folks that had to move. That was a very difficult time. When we look at who comes to live at Highview Lucan, it can be anybody. And we would absolutely welcome back anyone who wanted to come and live in the home again. I think that would be wonderful. I think that when we talk about wait lists, it is a key difference between a publicly funded system and a privately funded system. because the wait list scenario is a very real thing when it comes to accessing long-term care and when it comes to accessing developmental housing through the MCCSS and the government funding. So it's a different system. But we absolutely, we will welcome anybody, and we would be so happy to have the chance to talk to them again and tour people through. I anticipate there's going to be a lot of curiosity, and that's okay. That's okay.
Thank you very much.
Hey, any other comments? Well, thank you very much, Joy. It was great having you here. And we look forward to getting to know you over the coming months. And I know I'll be there tomorrow night, but hopefully you get a good turnout from
That's great.
the residents in Lucan and your neighbors. So
Yes,
yeah.
wonderful. Thank you
Great.
so very much.
Thank you. Okay, we just asked for a mover and a seconder to receive that presentation for information. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, up next, I'll welcome Brian Petrie, who is the chair of Upper Thames River Conservation Authority and the mayor of Ingersoll. It's great to welcome a colleague to Lucan. Thank you very much, Brian, and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much for Mayor and Council for having me this evening. I did want to take a little bit of a sidebar just to begin. It's exciting times in Canadian history, but certainly not only in Ingersoll, but in this area as well, to have Jeremy Hansen representing us, being from both this area and Ingersoll. So I just want to mention that so everybody knows he's not just from London.
I know exactly. I know. Tell CNN that. Just a fun fact, actually, the fellow that just walked out in the red sweatshirt, Tom Hearn, he actually taught Jeremy Hansen in elementary school.
Oh, that's
So, yeah.
amazing.
So, yeah.
So with that, I will get right into my presentation this evening. Really, what it's about is just about being good communicators about the changes that are being proposed and put through by the provincial government. There's a lot that we don't know at this point, so really, it's just about keeping those lines of communication open so we can get through this as easy as possible as partners in this change. As part of the provincial announcement on March 10th, 2026, there were a number of concerns listed from the provincial government over the current setup of conservation authorities. And they are listed there. As of right now, with the changes that are brought forward, there's nothing directly to address those issues. It's right around amalgamation. That's the only thing that's been put through with the March 10th announcement, but then also in the budget documents. Then we'll go to the the guiding principles. This is the provincial government's principles in making this decision. There is to retain local influence, maintain watershed-based jurisdiction, reduce administrative overlap, and strengthen CA capacity. And I'll focus on continuing of services. That's something that we're hoping that they will hold to. Certainly, that's something that we want to see happen. There's a lot of great services within our watershed that are unique, and we want to make sure that those continue on. So, what's the next slide? The original announcement that was made focused on 7 regions, regional CAs, and that we were originally part of the Lake Erie Regional Conservation Authority. We were part of the biggest change that was to split into the Western and the Eastern Lake Erie Conservation Authority, although Lucan Biddulph is also part of the Lake Huron Regional CA as well. So this has been part of the biggest major change, but it's still a large area, and certainly there's a lot of changes between this area and down to Windsor. So certainly there's expected to take that consolidation is expected to take place by early 2027. So Western Lake Erie region is going to have the Essex region, the Lower Thames Valley, St. Clair, and Upper Thames. Right now, there is a good working relationship between those bodies as the 10 Sydenham source protection area, and then Essex as the source protection area as well. So I know staff are busy working and meeting at all a lot lately. And certainly there's been discussions started between the board as well to try to see what that looks like. Next slide. The biggest change we're going to see is in the governance model, and that's really going to affect our member municipalities, such as yourself. The government has maintained that they want to have these municipally governed. How that is going to change. But there's some again, you'll hear me throughout this say there's a lot of information that we're waiting on. One of those things is around the governance. The agency that was announced in earlier changes of the CA Act. Its number one goal is to oversee the governance of authorities. So again, it's what that governance structure looks like needs to be played out in regulations and further direction from that agency. The bigger change too is it's going to be upper tier and single tier municipalities only at the table. Lower tier municipalities such as Lucan Biddulph will no longer be participating and have representation. Timing is certainly one with a lot going on this year with the municipal elections. Once those elections are over, the new upper tier municipal councils will select the first members. One of the concerns there is there may not be as much. One of the changes made in 2019 was, or through that legislation, was that elected officials sat on boards more, on the CAs more, and that was a good thing. I think in the end, it was a lot more knowledge level that was gained from that. But certainly that may not be the case at the upper tier level, depending on who's sitting there. There may be less of a knowledge level. With the changes, you'll see the upper tier, there's 7 counties that'll be represented, including Middlesex County, and 6 single tiers. This is a change that was originally 81 municipalities and now be represented through 39 municipalities. There is some contentions and questions around how representation will be chosen. It will be through a population, but if you're a single tier in the legislation, you are guaranteed a seat at the table. That includes Peely Island or Peely Township with 235 residents will be guaranteed a seat on the board, and St. Mary's with just under 8,000. But there's a number of larger municipalities that are not because they're part of the county structure. If I had to guess, your counties probably are going to get about 1 seat at on the table, just the way that it breaks down, and that's one of those concerns. I apologize. This slide is for a single tier. I didn't have the right at the time. So, but really, this will affect this municipality. Former board member Alex Westman. And really, that's really what we're really worried about is that loss of that local rural voice that means a lot at the board table. We have 15 board members, and there were certainly changes in the 90s to make sure that we're having that rural urban representation. And it's certainly, especially in Upper Thames case, we have very urban areas, we have very rural areas, and certainly I know Ingersoll, but I don't know Lucan Biddulph. And I don't, so it's one of the things we need everybody at the table to be able to have that, and that's certainly going to be eroded. UTRCA was created in 1947, and it was always been, CAs in general have always been a municipally led organization. They've had to come together to form them, fund them, and make any changes to them. And they set the service level to the local needs of what was needed in that area, much like municipalities do. But that is over. It is really a provincially controlled body at this time. All the policy making decisions was changed in the previous legislation to give it to the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. And so that's a big risk of losing those local voices at the table and local decision making. But again, that policy making has already been transferred. We don't have the ability to make local policies. One of the things that was heard in the government said that in the consultation was to address that they created what was called watershed councils, and each region is to make at least 1 watershed council. The concerns there is that it is not a decision-making body. It is for input only. And again, the major concern is that the province is going to appoint the board to the agency. The agency is going to appoint project executive to the transition. Those project executives will then become the CAO for 2 years. So the municipal governance will not be in control of their employee. And another goal of the agency is to ensure that provincial objectives are met. So my concern, and others share, is that when it comes to push and shove, how much local input is going to reign over that provincial policy that has the control over what's going through there. So certainly those will be those concerns are being brought forward. Next one. This is the timeline that the province has put out with their announcement. It is tight timeline, and certainly they want to have this done before spring of 2027. There's no exact date for the transition taking place yet, but again, there's going to be a lot of things happening in a short period of time if they want to get there. That agency has not been fully formed. The board members have not been appointed. They have not appointed the project executives. There's transition plans that have to be made, and then they have to be approved or altered by that agency, and then they have to be ready to be put in place. So I guess that's why I'm here today, is to make sure that you're aware that there's going to be a large flow of information coming when we get it, because we don't have the information to be able to provide that as of yet. This is the government's process that they have dictated, and so we're kind of just waiting for them to issue that. The budget process is going to look a bit same but different. The minister has issued an order stating in the legislation that the 2027 budgets need to be passed by December 31st, 2026. That's saying that our last meeting, we have a special meeting booked for October 6th to try to deal with that before the election happens. Those levies will be given to the current ratepayers, which will be Lucan Biddulph, but you will not have representatives after that fact. So there will be one more bill coming at least. I know that Middlesex County did have a report that said that could raise, giving the current numbers, it would be a 2.2% increase to the county budget. And we all know there's only one taxpayer. It may shift, but there's a difference there. The province did announce $20 million to create the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. And then part of the March announcement was $3 million in annual funding to support CAs. That works out to about $330,000 per regional CA. To put that in perspective, that the Toronto Regional Conservation estimated that it would be $5 million just to change their branding. So my warning to member municipalities is that the province, as usual, I hate to say that they only fund about 3% of our operation, that they have not been open to providing more funding at this time. So it's probably going to transfer down and may result in that 2027 levy, because we just don't have anywhere else. They did fees are freeze again, or fees are fees again as well. There are a number of economic impacts and concerns that have not been addressed as part of the legislation. Certainly the province only contributes 3%. They used to be a much larger partner at the table. I have a flyer in my bag from 1971 where they used to, the 50% and 75% came up in the funding for different things, but certainly that's been long gone. You are the largest funders of this, and allows what UTRCA does very well is go out and get grants to leverage that funding. Again, that's a concern about how that will continue in a larger structure and what that will mean. There's been no cost benefit analysis, and that's one of the big things about this. We don't know what goal we're trying to achieve. Even in the 2019, there was clear goals, and the staff did an amazing job of getting those done on time. Whether we agree with them or not, there was some good outcomes. There was some that still don't make sense, but there is no clear goals here about what that looks like, and even what the transition looks like. There's a process to transition, but we don't know what the goal is there. One of the major concerns everybody's sharing across the province is those reserves and funds that were generated locally. Everybody wants to make sure they stay there. They were by local municipalities and local ratepayers to fund local things. So we want to make sure that those are protected. And that's certainly still a lot of questions. Tomorrow morning, there is a meeting with Minister Flack for the watershed mayors. Mayor Josh Morgan was kind enough to arrange that. And then also on April 9th, there's a ministry update for the GMs and chairs. And hopefully we'll get something more that we can share with that. When it comes to concerns, there's 14,000 submissions to the provincial ERO posting. This is a correlation of those concerns across the wide areas, but this unfortunately has not been addressed at all either in the legislation so far, and it doesn't match the government's rhetoric so far as to what they are their goals and stuff are for this. So certainly share a lot of those, all of them. Our conservation authority is perfect, no, but certainly like municipalities, they're given tasks to do, and they do them. And finally, with next steps for UTRCA, our goal is to provide no service disruptions whatsoever. We're trying to ensure that our staff are there and making sure that we're providing that level of service to make sure permits continue and all the great programs that our residents rely on across the watershed keep going until they tell us to turn the lights off and hand it over. And that's certainly our main goal is from the board's perspective is to make sure that our staff are know that they're valued and make sure that we keep them. They're very valuable staff. They're highly trained and specific, and so it's hard to we don't make sure that they lose them. And the goals the province has said is that after the day before and the day after, they want to see that happen and make sure that that keeps happening. So the great work that's on the ground. If I had to guess, what will happen is that with all the work that needs to be done, the goal would be to get that overarching regional structure up and running, but still have the original 4 CAs kind of operating underneath in that. And then over time that would, you would see those further transition items happen as once you can plan those out. There's 3 different flood standards within the new region model. One has, Essex has a union. There's a lot of complicated things that need to be taken care of. And certainly that's, I don't envy our staff whatsoever, as usual. But certainly open to any questions, and I appreciate the opportunity and hope to try to keep more information flowing.
Thank you very much, Brian, for coming and presenting that. Certainly, it is a hot topic of discussion, not only amongst, municipal geeks and people and those living in the municipal world, but also, it is a topic that residents are talking about. Conservation authorities and what they do and how they operate in our communities, they're part of our community. And certainly you've done a great job at highlighting a number of the concerns that are on the table. Questions or comments? Councillor Westman.
To you, Madam Mayor. Hey, Brad.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to wrap my head around the whole process, and it's a lofty goal that they have. But what concerns me is exactly what you said there, the staff retention and the ability to fund staffing as we go on. A lot of our programs that our staff are doing are geared around flood control and monitoring and species at risk and keeping our wetlands healthy. That's one of my bigger concerns is that a future for this model that they're putting out, is that something we can maintain as things go along? And I don't know that answer. I don't know that anyone really can make that determination, but that's my question for you. Thanks.
Yeah, at this point, it's hard to, it's not clear what the final goal of the province is. In 2019, we just went up to 2024. We went through what was supposed to be a reorganization to make them what the province wanted them to be, and it's been less than a year since that, and we're on it again. So Certainly the goal is to retain staff and having do the great work that they do. So far, the core of the Conservation Authorities Act has not changed. And that's, I think, a positive. Certainly we were, as an organization, always trying to improve, and that service level. We received an excellent report from our Plannings and Regulations Department from Blackline Consulting on how to improve that. If you get an opportunity, it's part of our package, but it's probably the best report I've read on streamlining and making real improvements. It was real, it was tough, but that's something we've had to put on hold of implementing that because of these changes to a higher service level. So those are the kind of things that are going to slow down, and we're hoping won't affect staffing, is that making those changes that, we really want to see.
Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, if I may. Thank you very much for your report. So I guess my concern is about the representation piece. Because when you look at the map and you look at, where our watersheds are in the different regional areas, like most of that is rural. Like there was of course urban, we had urban centers, of course, but most of the waterways and conservation areas are in rural areas. And my concern is that it doesn't sound to me like there's going to be a voice of people who live in these rural areas who are more stewards of the land. I mean, they see it all the time. And I mean, somebody who lives in downtown London is not going to have the same perception as somebody who lives out in the rural area. And it just concerns me that we don't have a voice in that, living in, not just us, but other areas. And so I'm not sure I understand the logic of why we would not have a voice. We would not have we may have representation, but people who are not living it in the area, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, you should be very concerned, certainly concerned. And if I can, I think it's a trend of a broader plan or actions of this current government against local representation. And certainly less is more for them. And that's their purview. They're in charge of the legislation of municipalities and the province. But certainly I may be a bit biased, but I think decisions are better locally made, and with local input. But that's certainly the biggest change on this. Doesn't seem to be, and that's why it's hard to get your head around what their actual goals are, because their stated goals are not what their actions are. Really, it's about changing the governance and watering down the governance to a level where it is provincially controlled, mandated, and part of that other goal of the agency is to ensure that the strategic plans align with provincial objectives. And my fear is that local objectives will be washed away, to use watershed terms.
Thank you. May I? No, I just sort of leads into the second point, is that again, not understanding but what their goals are. What do you possibly want to achieve when you're taking out a whole group of people that have probably more at stake? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like farmers and those sorts of people that we, like I said, again, not to repeat, but just, again, it makes no sense. And again, maybe if I understood what their goals were, but again, I don't know if they know, right?
Our fear too is that certainly with that, you'll have less buy-in in the community for CAs. Like I said, one of the great things that did come out of it, we certainly had some great representation from non-elected officials, but that knowledge level across the elected official area grew substantially with more people serving on them. And certainly sending that message out in the community and getting that buy-in for the work that is done. There's a lot of benefits going on right now for rural part of the watershed through federal funding and those sort of things. And so if you don't have that buy-in, maybe the support's not there, and it's eroded over time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm done.
It's funny, Councillor, you brought up about the size of this CA that we'll find ourselves in it. When I was putting everything together, I had the news on, and Global News and this is Global News Toronto, they were interviewing the chair, I think it's of the Grand Valley and Conservation Authority. And essentially, it's had the same conversation we do. So, every conservation authority is having these conversations, and one can only hope that these meetings that we're able to have, the one tomorrow, at some point, one can only hope that maybe there'll be a dent made in some of this, or gain a better understanding of where they're headed. But I tend to agree with Brian about the eroding of, local representation and slowly taking away the ability for local choices and local decisions to be made locally, right? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, no, again, I can't imagine morale, morale within your group and just how vague it is, but it'd be interesting, like hearing you talk and again, if you were sitting where I was sitting and I'm listening to you talk, I mean, I'm voted in by our representatives spending their money for services. And it just sounds like however this outcome is going to be, and we can try to assist on changing that outcome so we have more input. But at the end of the day, our municipal input after this presentation and this continues this journey, it just doesn't seem like we're going to get as much value for our dollar that we're spending on our constituents' money. And I just feel if you were sitting in my shoes, that's certainly something you would voice. So.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, through you. Thank you, Brian, for the presentation and coming to give us information. So I sit on the board at Asaba Bayfield Conservation Authority on behalf of our council, and I brought some updates back, but your presentation was great and I'm sure provided more information. And at the ABCA, it's much more of a rural CA. There's no major urban centers there. And I've had the privilege of sitting on that board and seeing all the great things that happen there, all the great projects, the community involvement. And I guess that's a big worry that I have, is that sort of those grassroots things, fundraisers and community events and all the good education and stuff. And I think, ABCA, if I could add some comments on their behalf, they're the small part of the Lake Huron Regional CA, which is probably going to be centralized in Simcoe County, like very far away. And when you think of local residents making donations, making land donations to this local organization, I think that's really going to be affected. And there's just so many negative consequences of this kind of forced amalgamation. And obviously a lot of those would have been raised in the 14,000 comments. I think it was pretty unanimously opposed. So, not seeing a lot of, I think, municipalities who are supportive of it. So just thought I'd share those comments on behalf of ABCA. Just, you talked about it as well, just the gradual erosion and looking at this kind of long term, what the impacts are going to be. And even like broader, like all the good things that are done at the watershed level for the environment itself. What are the real long-term impacts of this going to be? But thank you for your presentation. If you want to comment on anything, that'd be great.
Yes, certainly. And I think this goes back to, I'll use the municipal model. Ingersoll is a different place than Lucan Biddulph, and it's not a bad thing that we're different. It's that we can mirror what we want in our communities, and certainly CAs, because they were municipally led, are that. Asaba Bayfield meets the needs of its residents, and if it doesn't, it has officials around the table that know what those changes need to be, and you can act upon the time. And same as Upper Thames. Certainly, one of the concerns that is that the provincial government already controls all the actions of CAs, and so it would have been nice to be more of a part of a conversation of what those issues were and how we could address them, different service level needs and stuff like that. One of the bigger concerns too is that there's a lot of, I don't want to say double talk, but I guess that's things that don't equal out. And some of those is that they're going to continue the same service level, but they're going to increase across. That service level is going to increase to be the same across all. So it's going to stay the same, but it's going to change. And so I do have a lot of concerns that will those changes be forced upon residents that don't need them or need to pay for that service level? And yeah, again, same as yourself, will those larger population centers needs drown out those important voices that across our province that have made these organizations, truly what they are and great things in our community.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Think we've said it all. Thank you, Brian, again for the presentation. We'll just, continue the work that we can do to try at least to make some changes. We'll see. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning. And hopefully Mr. Flack will listen and provide some words of comfort or guidance. Anyways, thanks very much. And with that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive that presentation for information, please. Councillor Hodgins and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. I mean, at least it's light driving home. It's not dark. And it's not snowing. Yeah. Okay, on to the adoption of the minutes. We have a set of minutes in front of us from March 17th. And I haven't received anything to say that anything needed to be amended or updated. So if nothing needs to be changed, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those minutes as circulated. Councillor Regan and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that's carried. On to the consent agenda. There are a number of items on the consent agenda. And I think that I heard that Councillor Regan wanted to speak to one item.
I did. Actually,
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I asked for 9.2 and 9.11, but I'm just going to start with 9.2. On the report from the Director of Community Services Facilities, there's just a question, maybe a comment. So the facility and capital project update, the second pad design and feasibility study, I would imagine, that's been completed and awarded. And just more of a comment, first of all, is just that, so our community is really, really good at having everything in place when we're doing projects. We're very good at that, I think, is my opinion. And so this is just sort of another example where we've got everything in a row when opportunities for grants come up. So we're ready to go, and we're showing that we're working towards doing it. And again, we've done this in the past. I'm just wondering if this is just my question, just for Darcy, would be: does this put us in a really good position for that? And is there anything coming up? There's
Through the mayor to Councillor Daniel. Yeah, absolutely. It does get us in position. It gets us way closer to shovel ready. It was just announced recently that the government has added 300 million to the Parks and Rec infrastructure grant. So there will be some money upcoming. We got to get to the right position to get there, but this definitely is a step in the right direction.
Sorry, go ahead. No.
Councillor Hodgins had a follow-up on this same item, so if we can keep the items together.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a quick question as well on the same item regarding the RFQ for the design and feasibility. With that being awarded to Monteith Brown Planning Consultants, just because I was just wondering, because they're a planning consultant, and maybe just question about the scope of the work. Because I didn't know if it was more of a structural or architectural review with them being a planning consultant. So maybe just can you clarify that with the scope? Will they be looking at the structural details or the architectural details to evaluate that?
Yeah, so so the planning consultant was procured, but they will have a architect on their team that can do the architectural part of it. So I believe it was Cornerstone Architect is actually the partner for Monteith Brown. So Monteith Brown's going to go through the planning or the public consultation, figure out what's in the building, what it looks like, and then the architect will be the one that draws out the plans and gives us plans on what it looks like and what makes sense.
Okay, sorry, actually, that's what I was going to ask. And I was going to ask that part. Sorry, no, that's fine. No, that's okay. Great minds think alike. I have no problem with that. No, I was just going to ask, but part of that feasibility study too, is that part of with public meetings and those sorts of things? That's going to be part of it as well, right? Because I know it's an important topic. So
yeah, through the mayor, yeah, absolutely. There'll be public open house, public consultation, as well as user group meetings, prac meetings, staff meetings with the consultant.
thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor.
Was there any other discussion on 9.2? Okay, then you wanted to speak to 9.11 as well?
All right, I just wanted to draw this just to council's attention. So Darcy Cook and I are on a committee, sustainability committee that is also has 5 other municipalities as members. And we've been on that committee for some, I've been on the committee for some time. This was just a report, regional waste management reduction or diversion that was done for our group by grad students from Western. And they presented to us, probably was about March 26th, I think, yes. I just wanted to draw attention to, or to point this out to staff and to council members to perhaps take a few minutes to go over this. There's a lot of good information about it. It just speaks about landfill capacities and some of the combined interests that we have with respect to diversion, because one of the things that they did point out to us is that, as we also heard from Blue Water Recycling in our presentation, is that the landfill capacity that we have is running out. And it's, I think, was 6 to 7 years. So we're going to have to come up with some new plans. So I am not an expert in it by any means, but I did thought there were some very interesting case studies. So I just wanted to point that out to primarily to members of council, if they would take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor, did you have an item you wanted to speak to?
Yeah, the Public Works report 9.3. Just Jeff, if you could just, I've got 2 things actually just to ask Jeff. The second submission completed for the William Street development, stormwater is an issue. If you could just elaborate on that.
Yeah, and through the mayor, so part of the review that we looked at includes the stormwater engineering for that development. And with the Bend drain being so close, it would seem very logical that stormwater would be an easy service to put in place. Having said all that, downstream of this on the Bend is the downtown area, which we have to be very careful because it actually is in the flood area for the Bend drain. So there is very restrictions on how quick water from a development can be put into the Bend. And so during this review of the stormwater, the release rates were higher than what were acceptable to go into the Bend. So we've asked the engineers to go back and look at their submission and bring something back to us that would meet the release rates.
So, yeah, so they're kind of almost where there's a will, there's a way. It's just taking longer than, and you're thinking, because that obviously we need to be careful there, but it'd certainly be a great piece of land to get developed if it's possible. Okay, so thank you. I've got one other one. I know we're approving the contract later on, but I noticed here you met with the residents 220 Walnut about the sanitary trunk main upgrade. So I just thought I'll ask that question now, just on that discussion and the rehabilitation, because I think that area is probably the most impacted from this project from a resident standpoint.
Yeah, and through the mayor, yeah, exactly right. The condos are the one piece of property that is affected the most by this project. The easement, the sanitary easement there, it is our main trunk line. It has been established. I talked to Ron about it back in the late 60s, early 70s. So this trunk line that goes through there is our major. No, what I was really surprised at my meeting was the condo owners did not realize the easement existed, did not know there was even a sanitary easement behind their unit. So I know there was a bit of surprise, but I did walk everybody through that attended the meeting. We did walk the site and we did walk the easement. And also to follow up, like part of this construction project will be rehabilitation. So the piece of property, the easement has to be put back exactly the way it is now. That includes grading, so make sure the water and everything flows the same way as it does now, and as well as put the grass back to where it was. There is some natural vegetation like trees that we're taking out that have grown up over the last little while, whether they should have been planted or not. We are going to take account for the trees that are being removed, and we are putting back the trees one for one. We're not going to put them back maybe in exactly the same location, but we are going to make sure that we do replace the trees that were taken out as well.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Were there any other items that council wanted to speak to in the consent? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just another one on item 9.3, Public Works activity, if I may, through you. Just wanted to ask just clarification on the line painting machine. Working with North Middlesex to share that machine. Just wondering, just clarify, are one of the municipalities buying that and we're sharing it, or we're both looking at procuring it together, or is it something we're renting? Just want to clarify that.
Yeah, and through the mayor, that's a good question. It could be clarified a little bit better. We, North Middlesex did reach out to us. We are going to share a machine, and we're going to share the cost of that machine. So we're going to purchase it together, and then use it when we need to. One of the ideals, or one of the ways this actually works really well is line painting. There's not a set schedule to it. When we need to do the line painting, we just arrange, we buy the paint from a supplier like Sherwin-Williams, and we go about and we can line paint it. So like, unfortunately, sometimes like sweeping, everything's done in the spring. There's certain aspects of it, whereas this type of machine, we can use it throughout the year to freshen up all our lines.
Okay, thank you. And then is it just like a smaller, I'm just thinking like budget, it's just a smaller unit, it's kind of hand operated, it's not a big machine like you see with mobile?
Yeah, no, we're not going to compete. The county's still going to do our line painting. This is a hand operated machine. You walk behind it. You fill a 5-gallon pail, and it sprays it down as you walk behind it. So I think the total price between the total price of the machine was around $15,000. So split between the two municipalities, it was running around $7,500.
Thank you.
Okay, any other items? I just wanted to bring up, and it's in the economic development progress report, just on Pitch-In Day. I could have brought it up in councillor comments, but I'll do it now. So Pitch-In Day is coming April 25th, and I do apologize for staff because probably this should have been a question about budget, but just wondering about maybe trying to do something, obviously keep in the same support that we've had over the years for Pitch-In Day. But I've noticed that neighboring municipalities have expanded how they are collecting litter in neighborhoods, trying to encourage neighborhoods to clean up their area or businesses, that sort of thing. And as we're growing, it's getting harder for the group of Cubs and Scouts and the 5 of us to support the cleaning up of the municipality. So just wondering if we could look at maybe supplying bags and gloves to businesses or homeowners if they wanted to clean up around their area. As I say, I've noticed some neighboring municipalities. I know London does a huge, obviously, Clean and Green campaign, but Middlesex Center is kind of, encourage their residents to take ownership of where they are to clean up all those goodies that are found once the snow moves. So maybe not looking for an answer now, but maybe looking to staff to think about, is there something we can do besides just the Saturday Pitch-In Day? Any other items? With that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive those items for information, please. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that's carried. On to correspondence. Was there any items that council wanted to speak to? Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 10.7, the resolution to support Bill 21, which is the Recent Ontario Bill Protect Our Food Act. And we were asked at the last meeting if we wanted to discuss this further and bring it forward. There are two resolutions that are, I think, attached as samples for that. And I was just going to ask council whether or not we could perhaps pass a resolution or a motion to support that as well. It is basically a bill that's going to establish sort of a review committee or I guess almost like a watchdog committee, I would think, from my understanding of reading the bill, just to review any kind of future development. I know it's just, you know, as our communities grow and then we're designating land for residential use, and that, especially in rural areas, I understand that. But I thought perhaps going forward, I'm thinking this might be an idea to actually to support, because living in a rural community, I mean, we lose about 300 acres a day to other development. So, and I'm going to ask council if and I guess the resolution or the motion could be made now or could be made at the next meeting, as you wish.
Well, thank you for that. Certainly, I support that. It's also important to know that part of that bill is in the watchdog, but also kind of setting up that green belt for agricultural land. And, you know, we have to protect the agricultural land that we have. Once it's gone, it's gone. So appreciate you bringing that up. Looking to council for
Perhaps we
further
could do a better
discussion.
job of it. So, thank you.
Councillor Hodges.
Yeah, I would second the motion to support if needed.
This conversation, I like when I read, I don't quite know enough about it to when it goes to a vote to support it. So I just wanted to speak to it. I look at our group, you know, again, and a few years back, I mean, we're bringing in 125 acres of farmland to develop and build on. I don't know. I'd like to say to put my hand up for that, and then put my hand up for being careful of farmland when all 125 acres was good farmland we're bringing in to develop. And I don't know, I just something about me in that mindset. So I just wanted to comment on it. Thank you.
No, certainly appreciate that. Certainly appreciate those comments. I think the bill also speaks to the whole responsible growth. And I would say that I think we have been very responsible in how we have been growing, and we've done that respectfully. But planning has changed in a way where it gets harder and harder to do that. So this could be a tool that could help support responsible planning. So, yeah, follow up and then
Follow up on that, and again, I agree with what you said about us, but if we were voting or putting our hand up on a specific item of a concern of irresponsible farmland building, I wouldn't feel the same way. As it just seems to be, I don't know whether to use feel good, I just, you know, avoid, you know, as opposed to that's all because I don't think it's a specific exact location and area of concern. So I do agree with your comment on our community, but I just don't agree. I find it that hard to support this. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Okay, so staff had produced a possible motion, or you can make a motion to just support what's already been there, or what's already presented in the agenda. But the possible motion would be that the Council of Township of Lucan Biddulph hereby endorses and supports the resolution passed by the Council of the Municipality of Thames Centre regarding the bill, to ensure that Ontario's prime agricultural land is preserved for future generations, and then spells out who it's going to be sent to, both from a municipal leadership and then obviously to AMO, Roma, and municipalities within the county.
And that's unsigned. I would like to make that motion.
Okay. And then Councillor Hodgins, you said you would second that one?
Yes.
Okay. So that's Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins on this one. And is there any further discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Were there any other items that anybody wanted to speak to? Okay, with that in mind, if I can get a mover and a seconder that we receive and file correspondence items 10.1 through 10.6. Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in favor? And that's carried. On to committee reports. Blue Water.
We had a meeting, just a short meeting, so not too much to report. And then Catherine did, you should be getting an email on the ICNI, and then eventually we'll be probably getting a report from yourself on recommendations.
Yes, we received something in the last week or so, and a report will come at the first meeting in May.
I know it will include this, but I'm just going to just what we're currently actually, what we are currently covering for ICNI now, if that could be in the report, because we do pay, our ratepayers offset that cost now, and just so we know what that is. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, CEDC.
I have nothing to report this meeting, Madam Mayor.
Okay, nothing from Lake Huron, nothing from the Firebirds, ABCA.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just a couple updates. We did meet on March 26th. Just to highlight the meeting, we went over our 2025 audited financial statements. ABCA was updating their communication strategy. There was that flood emergency planning meeting that was held on February 26th, and we had some township staff attend that as well. There was a presentation about flood forecasting, and then we had a kind of a wrap-up discussion about the consolidation. But just know, ABCA is still moving ahead. It's kind of business as usual, even with that sort of looming deadline in the future.
I thought it was interesting when Brian, when he shared what his vision was, kind of, you've got your big conservation authority, and then perhaps maybe for the time being, each one continues on doing their thing until they figure it out, right? Any questions on that? Okay. Parks and Rec.
Nothing to report at this meeting, Madam Mayor.
Trails and connectivity. On to staff reports. Ron, you have the first one.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. The first report is in regards to the 2026 municipal election restricted acts. That's commonly referred to potentially a lame duck council. This, again, I just want to stress that this is an information report. We won't know whether we're in a period of restricted acts until 1 minute after 2 p.m. on the afternoon of Friday, August 21st. So, but this is typically a report that gets brought before every election. So again, it's an information report, but it just outlines what will happen should there not be 75% of the existing members of council putting their name forth in the next upcoming election. So it is interesting to note some of the restrictions, and those restrictions, namely the appointment or removal from office of any officer of the municipality, and then B, the hiring or dismissal of any employee of the municipality, which is a bit of a head scratcher, but that is what the legislation actually says. So in recognition of those, the attached bylaw, which is bylaw number 30/2022, is a bylaw that basically delegates the responsibility for those acts that are potentially restricted, because there won't be, if it's a case of 75% of council members not returning, the authority for those types of decisions gets delegated to the CAO, which is obviously myself. So there are some exceptions, specifically in regard to things that are already accounted for in the approved budget. So if in the case, for example, Jeff had another gravel truck, if it's already approved and been approved in the 2026 budget, that's not what they call a restricted act. We're still free to move forward with that. So it's basically emergency type situations. And I think that's, keep this in perspective. I've done this a long time. I don't think we've ever had to touch this kind of thing. So Yeah, so it's one of the, well, it might happen, but again, it's just good to be prepared. And like I said, this is for information so that not only the members of this council, but also the public know what would happen, could happen. So
Yep.
happy to take any questions.
Great. Thanks, Ron. Questions on that? Just the bylaw that you've attached is from 2022. And I'm sure you've vetted it against any sort of legislative changes that might have that MMAH might have brought down for this election cycle. Or do we have to update it?
Good point. And Tina's going to get to this in the next meeting, but we are looking at all the other policies as well. And one of those other policies is the delegation of authority bylaw that we passed. What was that? Maybe 2 years ago. 2 years ago. We're going to have another look at that one as well, because a lot of things have changed in the last 2 years. So we are going to have another look at that with a different lens. So we will be reviewing that, and we will be reviewing it in conjunction with bylaw 30, 2022.
Okay, so you are going to take another look at 30,
We will,
2020.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, thanks. Did you have anything verbal? Oh, I guess I do. There is a motion in here. Yeah. Can I get it? A mover and a seconder just to receive that report for information, please? Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? And that's carried. Did you have anything verbal, Ron?
Just a quick reminder, I believe it's next Thursday or next Friday, possibly, the emergency management group gets together for I believe it's our first meeting of 2026. So we will be meeting, I believe it's at 9 o'clock in the morning on the 17th. So just a quick reminder.
Okay, thank you. Tina.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, and to members of council. The report before you tonight is just regarding review of policies which are mandated under Section 270 of the Municipal Act. Staff have begun to review those, and the report presented tonight identifies all 9 policies which are applicable in accordance with that section of the Act. Over the next 6 months, staff intend to bring forward a couple policies at a time until all 9 policies have been reviewed and updated. At this time, tonight, we have prioritized 2 policies which were previously not in place. Firstly, the public notice policy, and secondly, the accountability and transparency policy. It is important to note that while these were previously not in place, the township has and continues to provide notice to the public through a variety of mechanisms and is open and transparent with its decision-making processes. In developing each of the 2 policies, staff discussed content of each with applicable department managers and also looked at examples from neighboring Middlesex municipalities, which a few are undergoing the same process of review of these in preparation for a new term of council. So it was good to do that together as a clerks group. The first policy included for consideration, just a couple of things to note. The Municipal Act puts the onus of municipalities to develop its own policies and procedures for providing notice to the public, with the exception of certain laws and regulations which mandate specific notice requirements, such as the Planning Act and Drainage Act. The notice period that we have established within the attached policy is consistent with 14 days notice, with the exception of one being the shutoff of a public utility, which will be 7 days notice when possible. The accountability and transparency policy formalizes the township's commitment to open, ethical, and responsible government through an established framework, which is outlined within. And it is staff's recommendation that council approve the policies presented in principle. And once all Section 270 policies have been brought forward, a bylaw will be presented, which will formally adopt all policies together. This process will provide for ease of tracking and regular review of the Section 270 policies. And as Ron noted earlier, staff have begun and will be reviewing the delegation of powers and duties policy next, which was adopted in 2024, and we'll continue on with the rest of the policies that are listed in the report.
All right, thank you very much for that, Tina. Are there any questions or comments to Tina's report and what's attached? Counselor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just on the accountability and transparency policy, I was just wondering if there is consideration for or ought to be like to have a requirement for training in there. Because I think it's like I think when a new term of council comes in, they have to do sort of that ethics training and integrity commissioner training and stuff. And would that be something addressed through this policy or not really?
It does set out applicable codes of conduct that council will be held accountable for. But as for the actual process on that training, it doesn't speak to that generally, although we do, with our integrity commissioner, we do review of the Conflict of Interest Act and the Council Code of Conduct Act with each new term of council.
Okay, that's all I could think of.
Any other questions or content or comment? Okay, seeing none, thank you for all this. I know this is a lot, it has been a big undertaking because it is something we haven't done before. So appreciate all the work to get us to this point. Certainly we will look forward to further review. I guess maybe the question is, it'll be interesting if the province brings down a code of conduct for municipal, like a standard code of conduct for municipal governance, how, how that affects ours and then essentially this policy. So always changing, right? With that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder, and just a reminder to receive the report for information and that council approve in principle the public notice and accountability and transparency policies as presented. Okay, Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in favor? And that's carried. Did you have anything verbal, Tina?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Finance, Catherine.
Thank you. The report tonight is in regards to the net proceeds from the municipal land sales that took place in 2025. If you remember, there was 3 lots in the industrial park that were considered surplus and put up for sale, and servicing was required to as regards to cost to those lots. And then the Nicoline Ave, there was an empty lot there that was considered surplus, and so that a single family home could be constructed on it. And the services that ran through that had to be relocated, so there was a large cost to do that. So the industrial park, the lots in the industrial park came in with net proceeds of just under $119,000. And then the Nicoline Ave, the empty lot, came in with just under $5,000 net proceeds. Around the same time, council also purchased a property at 269 Main Street. And during those discussions was if any potential land sales could go, any proceeds from the potential land sales could go back into the reserves that were contributed to that purchase. So in order to complete the 2025 financials, I'd like council to decide where to put those net proceeds, which reserve. So there's some options there. Pick one reserve, whether it be when we bought the 269 Main Street, there was a portion of contribution from the tax stabilization reserve and the Parks and Rec reserve. So you can pick one or either of those, or pick a different reserve where you'd like that to go. My recommendation is to split the proceeds to the 2 reserves based on the contribution that was made from, taken from those. And that was where I came up with the 58 and 42% split. And if that was the case, then the numbers there, so tax rate stabilization reserve would receive 71,528, and Parks and Rec reserve would receive $51,796. So that's for 2025, and I just made a note there. There was another land sale that was came up a surplus in the end of 2025, but it didn't close to 2026. So once we get those final numbers, another report will come in regards to those, into that sale. I'm only just waiting on legal costs, but there wasn't a lot of cost involved with servicing or anything with that. So it's a pretty good number that's coming forward with that. But this time we will, would like a decision on the 2025 sales.
Okay, thank you for that, Catherine. Conversation on this report in front of you. Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Manders, sorry about that.
Just, I like Catherine's recommendation and I'd motion to support her recommendation. If someone wants to second and discuss after if they want.
Great, if we can get a seconder for that motion, Councillor Westman. Okay, further discussion on the motion or on Catherine's report. Okay, so you know what the recommendation is, or the motion is Catherine's recommendation by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Westman, all in favor. And that's carried. Thank you very much, Catherine. Did you have anything verbal?
Just want to mention we're preparing for the final audit and the auditors will be in-house on April 28th and 29th. So hopefully there's another report coming beginning of May to talk about any anticipated surplus. So remains to be seen when they go to do their work. So we're busily preparing to get that information to them in the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you for that, Catherine. Public Works, Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two reports here. The first one is on the, excuse me, Lucan easement trunk sanitary sewer replacement tender. We did close it. We had 3 bids, Burnham, Bluecon, and Elgin Construction. Burnham was the low bid. And after review, Dillon Consulting did review the technical aspects of the tender, and County Procurement Services did review the tender to make sure that it met all the legal aspects of it. So both County and Dillon do support the low bid. The low bid, if you look at the net price with HST included, will be $864,152.42. I would point out this also includes contingency in there of $140,000. Hopefully that's not all needed, but we want to include it to make sure that we understand what we're signing up for. The township did receive funding of 73%, and that funding will cover $630,831.27. The 27% will be funded. The other 27% will be funded by a combination of development charges, sanitary capital reserves, and additional grants or loans. I'll just, the budget that we had estimated at was $935,000, which included construction and engineering. Dillon's engineering estimate is at 126. So we are slightly over our estimated budget that we put forth in the fall. But I just want to make sure council is aware of that. Other than that, I am recommending to council to take the low bid from Burnham.
Okay, thank you for that, Jeff. Any comments or questions on this? Councillor
It's
Regan?
really, it's just this small technical thing. Just when it says impact to budget, it says sanitary capital reverse. Should be reserve. Okay, okay.
Teacher.
English teacher. Can I have a red pen there, please? Jeff?
Deputy Mayor Manders.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Just on this contingency, Jeff, and maybe projects, I don't know, council has an appetite for it. I don't think we've, like 140,000, it's a lot of money, and I understand why we're putting that in there, but I assume you're going to have to be the one that makes the call, obviously, on why it was missed and accept that or be fighting with them. I think, there's a threshold there of 100,000 and up or something that, no report or anything, but I do think at the end of project, it'd just be nice to ask the question every time that gets touched, what we did wrong when we went for tender, why it got missed, or, and why is that? Because that's, to me, is the only way. And then, so we can learn from it. And that's, you know, and I think every contractor, you know, when we award them a contract, that they just simply know that up front, just a public meeting, council meeting. If we're just, all I'm going to do is just put 50,000 in the future process, we would add this. This is why it got missed. I just think I would like to see that anyways. So.
Yeah, and through the mayor, two comments. So as we go through, and this is also included with the bigger project of the plant expansion as well. As we go through council, there'll be monthly payment schedules. And in those monthly payment schedules, there'll be information on any sort of contingency or change of scope that's brought forward. So that information is very readily for me to bring to council to explain what is going on. And then my second comment is, you know, because why is this one slightly, you know, it is pretty high. And the reason is because we're digging in the ground. And we are crossing the Bend drain. So if we do run into something that is unforeseen because it's below the surface, then that's where we got to be really careful of making sure that we have some funds there to cover that.
And understood, especially what you can't see, and even change of scope where all of a sudden, you know what, it was impossible to see this, but this makes sense to, you know, to go to this level of product or something else, and we've decided to change our mind or change for these reasons. But again, doesn't need to be a story, but I just think, again, it's not, I don't, and just to be clear, using the contingency, it's not a negative thing, but I just think we, you know, better awareness when we are using it and why. So, yeah.
Any other questions or comments on this? Councillor Hodgins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. So we're awarding the tender. Just wanted to ask about the timeline for the project, if you have an idea of that, Jeff.
I haven't had a chance because obviously we haven't awarded the tender, so I haven't had a chance to meet with the contractor. But from what the initial discussion was that it's going to go right away. They want this to be their first project out of the chute. So I'm hoping to, if we do approve the tender, then have by the end of the week have a pre-construction meeting to have an idea on timelines for that.
Thank you very much. That's good to hear. Hopefully we get the A team. And just a technical question. It's okay if you don't have the answer, but how deep is this trunk sewer?
I don't have it in front of me, but it's deep. So it'll be done with a trench box. And in the confines of the easement, that goes without saying, but no, it's very deep. The one that's there now will be grouted in place. There's not enough working room to remove the old one. And we are working on the most westerly side of the easement away from the condos. So we've tried to create as much space between the new one going in and where the condos are. So it will be very disruptive. There's no doubt about it because we're going so deep. But at the end of the day, with the trenching box, it should move right along.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, then you've got a motion in front of you to receive the report for information and that we award the tender for the Lucan easement trunk sanitary sewer replacement to Burnham Excavating in the amount of $959,603.22. And that includes the $140,000 contingency allowance and HST. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, your second report, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The second report is an information on the next stage of the Lucan wastewater treatment expansion when it comes to BM Ross, who is our engineering firm that's overviewing the project. So this project started way back in 2019, and it's been done through stages. And each stage, BM Ross has given us a memo outlining what the next stage responsibilities will be and what sort of estimated budget they predicted for that stage. So this is the big stage. The stage for construction will take place over 2 years. BM Ross will do the contract administration, and they'll also do the site review. Included in that will be any subcontracting engineering required. It'll be required that BM Ross through this contract administration, that they look after all the sub-engineering under this as well. So I just wanted to bring this forward to council. So there was, again, this will be another piece of the pie when we bring back the financial report on this overall funding budget that we're going to be looking at these two projects. So this is one of those pieces. So the recommended budget, and we talked about this as we were tendering the project back in late November, and it was put at 1.2 million. I met recently with BM Ross to review this again, and they were confirmed that they still believe that 1.2 is appropriate for this contract. So yeah, so I just want to make sure council is aware.
Okay, thank you for that. And any questions? That's to receive for information. Yeah,
Yep.
Councilor Regan.
Thank you, Member. Jeff, just wondering, when we move from stage to stage, who are the players involved in improving that and saying it's okay to go to the next stage?
Yeah, I mean, BM Ross kind of got started before I got here, so I can't comment on the initial approval of BM Ross, but as each stage went along, there was always the opportunity, if we weren't happy with the progress, that we could bring that up. And as we've gone along, we haven't had that need to look at it, so we've just naturally gone on to the next stage. So this is one of those stages that fall into place.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks.
Through the mayor to Councillor Regan, just to reiterate, we had our initial pre-construction meeting last week. There were so many people sitting around that table, we couldn't hold it in here. We had to go over to the arena and use one of the large meeting halls. But that was a very important meeting because everybody's sitting there. Everybody hears the same thing. BM Ross, I thought, did an excellent job, reading sort of the playbook, how things are going to work and how things are going to move forward. Who reports to who is, it was nice to put a face to a name that you see on. So I was very impressed with how they ran that meeting, and certainly Jeff has done a good job sort of sitting BM Ross down and sort of outlining what our expectations are of them going forward through all of this. So I do feel comfortable, and I think I can speak for Jeff too. I think we both feel comfortable that we've got the right players at the table that are going to look after us. And they, originally they thought a monthly meeting, but the contractor, and I was glad to hear them say, well, how about every 2 weeks? Because we don't want to go too long. We want, and I was very happy with the words that came out of the contractor's mouth as well. I thought that they had a great attitude. They said, we're not perfect, but we strive to be. And I like that saying. They were humble and they want to do a good job. So I think overall, very good meeting. I was happy with the way BM Ross sort of laid everything out, and and I'd be remiss if I didn't sort of also give thanks to Josh White at the county for his work, because his office did a lot of work to get us to this point as well. So
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other comments or questions on this? Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question. So when it comes to setting up the agreement with BM Ross to do the CA and the site review, so they've given a recommended approximate or preliminary budget of 1.2 million. I just want to confirm, we're going to enter into an agreement with BM Ross, but the payment terms for that, it's not like the construction side where we're paying the lump sum. We're going to automatically pay them that. It's going to be like based on time spent on the project. Is that correct? And then, if they spend less time, it's going to be less. And that's just a preliminary estimate. Is that correct?
To the mayor, yes, that's correct.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then this is just to receive for information. So a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? That's carried. Did you have anything further verbal?
The only thing I will say verbal, and it wasn't in my update, was the sweepers will be here on Monday. So if anybody has some sand at the end of their laneway, we are going to be trying to get out and sweep the main street boulevards. But if you have sand in your laneways or anything on your sidewalks, please put it out to the curb. The sweepers are coming. So
Okay, thank you. Sounds like a movie. The sweepers are coming and the sweepers are coming. Exactly. There is a lot of sand. There is a lot of sand. Okay, Darcy, do you have anything verbal or anything to update us on?
Yes, through you, Mayor. Two things. The first thing is, the council remember at the last meeting, I brought a report for the RFP for the concession. That plan has changed. I have to apologize to council. I made a mistake as we were going through the creating of the RFP. The contract was for 3 extensions of 2 years, not 1. And I have met with the group, and they are excited to extend for another 2 years. So we're happy to do that. So that RFP will not go out. It could be another 4 years if the current people would like to extend for another 2 after that. So we're excited to have them back. And any party that we didn't release the RFP or anything, but any party that showed interest to me, I contacted and let them know the new plans, and we'll be updating the Parks and Rec Committee at the next meeting. So that changed. And on the second note, council remember that the next priority for AED was Market Street. Lucan Firefighters Association with their breakfast funds came to me and said they wanted to do an AED. So they are going to do an AED at Market Street, an outdoor AED with a heated box and cooling box. So that actually has already been delivered to my office within a day. It was delivered. So we'll be putting that up in the next week or two. So you'll see an outdoor AED at Market Street, which we're excited about, as well as we have an AED recognition event of the ones that we do in later April 22nd, I believe was the date we chose. So council will get an email from me outlining that day once we have it all planned, but we're excited to have that day, and Market Street will now be added to the list. So we're excited to have that.
That's amazing. Thank you. That's awesome. Lisa, do you have anything verbal from you?
Just a quick reminder, actually it's new, sorry, for the upcoming election. So for nominations, just so everyone's aware, this will be our first year that candidates will have to have a 25 signature endorsement to go along with their nomination form. That's also on our website as well right now. So I just want to note that because we are now over a threshold number. And so what happens is we use numbers from 2022. So when we had the election in 22, we used 2018 numbers. So those we didn't qualify then. So now we do. So that is why there's a new change to our nomination process. That's everything.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Councillor or I guess other business. There's items there. If you want something added, please let Tina know. Are there any notices of motion? Councillor comments? Councillor Westman.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. You reminded everyone about Pitchin Day on the 25th. It's also electronics recycling. So if anyone in the community has any electronics they need recycled, the First Lucan Scouts and Guides will be there to collect them, and it is part of our fundraising model for the year, and we'd appreciate all that support. Also, anyone's welcome to come and help out with pitch-in to help clean up the community. We're always ready to accept as many people as we can. We attended the Good Roads Conference last week in Toronto, and was able to gather some information on a couple things. And I've spoken with Lisa about like in a lot of communities, cycling is encouraged because, you know, it's much better for the environment. It gives people a healthy lifestyle. In the breakout session there was a lot of focus on urban areas, but here in Lucan Biddulph, we have a lot of people that cycle locally to get to the local businesses and what have you. But we also often have a lot of large groups of cyclists that come through town. They'll stop at Tim Hortons, they'll stop at the grocery store, that sort of thing, stop at the food restaurants here in town. So one of the things that came up there was reaching out to the local business to help build or place bicycle racks that maybe have their branding on it. We have our own branding. We have a bunch of bicycle racks with Lucan Biddulph on it, which is great. And they're beautiful. They're locally made and they're really good. But I think we can do more. And if we have more bicycle racks, that would encourage more people to cycle in the area. And I think it would be a good thing. Also, there was talking about the ongoing thing where we have invasive plants like giant hogweed, Phragmites, all that, big deal in our community, big deal across the province. I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can to raise awareness, let people know that if they see it, they can report it, and through our request for service, they can do it through that process. Anybody who has maybe doesn't know what it is but thinks it is, well, we can get a qualified person to have a look at it and get some help through our conservation authorities as well for getting rid of it. Right. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for that, Councillor Westman. Any other councillor comments? Okay, seeing none. We only have one bylaw in front of us tonight, and that is the confirming bylaw. So the motion in front of us is that bylaw 15-2026 be read a first, second, third, and final time and be adopted. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Westman, Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. And adjournment. Resolved that council meeting be adjourned at 7:46 p.m. A mover and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you very much.